Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Hi folks, Cesar here. Happy New Year. It is January 2026, and we've got a great show tonight. We're going to recap a little bit of what happened in 2025, talk about the impact on those activities, those initiatives from last year, and then talk about 2026. We've got a full calendar for the year, but I wanted to do something special this evening and just kind of recap, like I said, where we were and where I think we're going. So for the folks that may not have known or were out of the country, we're back from hiatus. We had a gubernatorial election this year in the Commonwealth. And if you didn't know, Virginia made history. We elected our first female governor. If you don't know, Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger defeated Winsome Earl Sears. I think about 15% overall on the vote tally. Not sure what that was. I think it was about 600,000, 600,000 votes. The reason it was significant is there were two entirely different campaigns. Politics aside and the national issues aside, I think this really displayed what we're going to see going forward in 2026. That election in November for Virginia's gubernatorial election, I think represented how local politics really do matter. Whether or not it was intentional, the Trump administration, in terms of their DOGE initiatives, really cut jobs all over the country. But if you look at the voting patterns, if you look at the turnout, it was a runaway in terms of where those federal workers were concentrated. Whether they were Republican, Democratic, Independent, non-affiliated, first-time voters, clearly that impact was felt on federal workers. The next thing that I think was pretty poignant in the results were the shift of minority voters from the previous presidential election to this election, November 2025. Virginia's demographics showed that younger voters, minority, diverse voters were not happy with what the federal government was doing. They then looked at the candidates' messages, their initiatives, their platform. Many of them overwhelmingly either went back or came out for Abigail Spanberger. And it wasn't just Latinos, it was all sorts of immigrants and minority communities. And that was pretty poignant in terms of the messaging. While the Republican candidate spoke of issues, they were really more focused around the transgender issues, which I'm not really sure how that was a winner. I don't know why you lead with that. I don't know when, in a time where there was a lot of concern around the economy, in terms of jobs, affordability, that message would resonate. You really had a tale of two campaigns. Either way, I think Virginia was going to win. We were going to make history in electing a female governor. And to all my female sisters out there, cousins and loved ones, you need more representation at these executive levels. And I certainly support that. So I think Virginia was positioned to make some change. I think you will continue to see the change with the actual governors-elect initiatives going forward. They are very different. They are very much opposite. One is looking forward. One is investing. One is looking to restructure the institutions for better, to accommodate more people, to involve more people. And I think that's a good message for the Democrats going forward. I think there are too many people that have looked at Virginia and lost sight of what the message the voters were sending. We want things to work. We want things to make investments in. We want to leverage the talent that we have, give people the opportunities. I don't think the average voter is going to sit well and accept sort of this finger pointing on who's to blame for things being bad. I think voters have started to gravitate towards someone with solutions, someone with idea, a vision of what can be, and not necessarily focusing on the things that are broken. And I think for me, that was what I think delineated the two candidates here in Virginia for governor. And I think that also will trickle down to the parties. I think as both Democrats and Republicans, and quite frankly, I think we need third and fourth party participation to really bring people in, more people, for more representation. But for now, it's going to be Democrats and Republicans primarily. But if you look at those two different visions and messages going into next year, what was clear for 2025 was establishment now point at who's to blame for the bad things versus here's some potential solutions. And I think that has certainly going to affect the rest of Virginia. And as we talk about that a little bit more, there was also a lieutenant governor's race. And we made history there as well. Full disclosure, I've donated to these campaigns, and I've welcomed others to come into the studio as well. But the lieutenant governor's race for Virginia, for the Commonwealth, was also history making. Ghizala Hashemimi, who became the first Muslim elected to statewide office in the Commonwealth. And I will have to check on this. I wrote this down, but she became the first Asian and Muslim lieutenant governor in U.S. history. So just sit back and think about that. In the history of this country, that is a huge, huge accomplishment. So Virginia not only elected its first female governor, but a representative of a very proud and capable immigrant group. And to my Muslim brothers and sisters out there, love it for you, very happy for you. And to the folks that might be a little bit apprehensive or right out fear about what that represents, change is okay. Change is good. Our founding fathers actually foresaw this. They didn't have 120 characters to just tweet or X in. They started in the preamble with "we the people" in order to form a more perfect union. What's implicit in that is change. The Virginia elections represent that change. And it will continue to change, and it has to continue to change in order to form that more perfect union. Nothing is set. Nothing is established. We are always working towards that more perfect union. So again, I would offer this to anyone that's listening. If you want to run for office in 2026, let's get away from the fear tactics. Let's go back to the vision of what made this country truly great. The other thing I want to talk about is how that's going to reflect the down ballot races. And oh, by the way, I'll get to that in the next second. But for now, there was a huge shift or a solidification of the General Assembly. And I looked up these numbers because I wanted to make sure I had them correct. So it ended up that the Democrats picked up a few more seats and basically strengthened their majority in the General Assembly. So in terms of what they were looking at, they now have a pretty solid majority in the House of Delegates and a few votes in the Senate. So I say to the party in power, certainly continue to have dialogue with the opposition. A contrarian view is never a bad thing. I, being a business person, we were trained to find contrarian views. And it was always done in a respectful manner. So if we can, as a Commonwealth, agree to have those contrarian discussions and those views represented, I think we can establish a lot more things and make more history in the Commonwealth. So to the Democrats, way to go. To the Republicans, represent your position, have the contrarian views, discussions, but let's always agree to get things done and not allow the federal positions to really poison what we're trying to do. Virginia is a great state. There's opportunity here like nowhere else. We have probably the best education system collectively over a few counties in Northern Virginia, which make us attractive to people wanting to move, companies wanting to invest. And I would just really emphasize that there's a way to bring in revenue without raising taxes. And I know this hurts, and we'll talk a little bit about this after this break. But affordability, everyone feels it. But we can't sustain government by either continuing to cut taxes or by increasing taxes. We have to look at these other sources, and the other levels I think that we can pull on are going to be, destination, investing in some of these infrastructure projects. So almost done with recapping 2025. But as we come back, and I hope you do come back, we'll look at the impact of some of that election results on the outcoming initiatives going forward. We're going to talk about budget and some other things. So please come back after this announcement.
So I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
So how was work?
It was 1,300 hours. My math class from 302 was in the trenches. Davy Roth had it the worst. Fractions were coming at him left and right. He just didn't get the damn things. 2 days ago, I tried to teach him what 1/4 of 1/2 was using different sizes of blocks. Yesterday, I tried again by dividing up pizza. Both missions failed.
Oh, no.
But today, I was ready. I created a combat math game where the only way to beat the enemy is to out-fraction them. Davy conquered every last denominator. My game was so successful, the principal is deploying it to math squadrons all over the school.
Anywho, how was your day?
Oh, today my boss treated the office to salad wraps.
Salad wraps.
No.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi folks, Cesar here, back in Studio C. Our special year kickoff show. It's January 2025, and we are here recapping 2025. So, wait, did I say that? Yeah, 2026, but we're recapping 2025. I started to talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that were going on. And just to the point that I ended on, we're going to have to find ways to, in this affordability crunch, to raise revenues that don't just increase taxes, while also trying to cut taxes. There's alternatives. There's making things more of a destination or attraction. And just to recap, I think there was a missed opportunity here. There was a measure to put forward, but it was vetoed by the current governor on regulating recreational cannabis market. Again, I think studies have borne this out, and other states are reaping the rewards. This is untapped revenue. I'm not suggesting people do this. I personally wouldn't do it, but it's an option, it's an alternative. When you're looking at a budget hole the size that the Commonwealth is, you need to look at other levers of revenue. I say this again, I am not in favor of constantly upping residential property tax, commercial property tax, meals taxes. There's got to be different ways. I certainly, as a council member, I've pushed initiatives that do not touch traditional revenue sources. By finding other revenue sources, either through, tourism or some other, in this case, a cannabis tax. That's kind of where I think we ought to be. I don't know what all those are, but I just know rejecting a proposal was a loss. So the other thing I think we missed on is the minimum wage. That was vetoed. There was a bill to increase to $15 an hour, the minimum wage. And I just want to be mindful of this. Look, I know a lot of small business owners. I'm not suggesting this because I want to put businesses out. In fact, I'm probably the most pro-business Democrat that I know, if I could say that. To the extent where it's got to be certainly equitable, but if you think about $15 an hour, it's about 30 grand a year. In Northern Virginia, you need a second job, or you need 2 incomes in a household to just be at a level that you can afford housing where it's not taking up 40, 50% of your earned income. I think that was a missed opportunity. And then certainly there's enough in terms of what corporations or private businesses could do in terms of automating tasks. AI is becoming, certainly in the Fortune 500, part of the workforce. There isn't an executive these days that in 2026, this year, won't deal with AI, technology, automation as part of the workforce. So if $15 an hour is a lot to a business, there are certainly options there in terms of automation. There are certainly options there in terms of what technology might provide. Again, a missed opportunity. I think it's important that we invest in the workers, certainly those that are in the service industry or those that really find themselves commuting. And I say this, to all the workforce. That segment, the segment that we refer to as the workforce, use a little backup. They can use a little support. So I am in favor of all of that. I think we missed an opportunity here in Virginia with not increasing minimum wage. The other thing I think we missed an opportunity was on the paid family medical leave legislation. That had been in the works for quite a few years. Again, if you're sick, how else are you supposed to get better? It seems like there should be some sort of equitable pay into or hourly. After certain months, you get 4 hours, or after 6 months, you get 8 hours or 16, whatever that is. I'm not sure that is really being understood by the folks that have vetoed this. I think it represented a significant investment in not only the workers, but the families. Because I know, I grew up with both my parents working, and we were on, food stamps. We were on subsidized meals at school. We were in affordable housing. So there were times when something like that could have certainly helped. And I promise you, these investments that I think some people are asking for, you're not going to be able to measure them quarter to quarter. You're not going to be able to measure them in a first half return or a year-over-year return. These investments, these things like the minimum wage, the family leave, they're going to be measured over a lifetime. And for those that want to impose a business, public owned quarterly return on investment, that's just not what government's about. Government's supposed to be an entity doing things that people can't do for themselves. And that's why we have elections. So I think that was a missed opportunity. I think there are opportunities there to regroup and incorporate other sources of income as we move forward. So the next thing I want to talk about is this whole regulatory initiatives. I'm not sure how this is going to pan out. It's become very much partisan. And in terms of the gridlock we're seeing, not just in the Capitol, the federal level, but I would like to see in the next session the legislators put forward things that are more long-term focus to address the affordability issues. What we saw last year was, I believe Democrats put forward some initiatives that just were pretty much dead on arrival. To me, it's not really conducive or a good use of time when the governor had already publicly said they were going to veto these things. So maybe going back to the drawing board, having a little bit more. I know it's tough, trust me. I've been in these discussions where you've got someone or some people or votes that just will not come along. A somewhat okay plan is better than a perfect plan. That won't ever come to fruition. So I would take the win in terms of the short-term gains and live to fight another day. I just think going out on for 2025, those were some things that could have been done a little bit differently. And to wrap up 2025, I think there was an additional gun safety reform and measure that previously had been vetoed. Again, I'm not one to tell people what they can do with their guns. I think it's uniquely your own decision if you want one. If you feel you need that, God bless you. But I think a little bit more responsibility. I'm one of information. If information is available on individuals that pose potential risks to themselves or others, maybe we do not allow them to possess firearms. If you get a couple DUIs, you get your license suspended. If you get way too many speeding tickets, if you're a habitual speeder, you lose your license. I'm not sure I see the disconnect I think that logic can certainly help with some of the gun safety or the gun violence that we have. I just think some people should not own guns. And that doesn't mean everyone. I'm not suggesting everyone. I'm suggesting some people. So in summary for 2025, I think I'll put it this way. It was a good year. It was, despite all the challenges, despite the economic challenges, despite the political challenges, it was a good year for Virginia. I think Virginia has certainly, as a result of the elections, certainly turned the page. And with new leadership, fresh minds will come more new ideas. And I think this puts a big, big burden on the Democratic Party. You promised a lot, you need to deliver. And I would just remind everyone that Virginia represents the microcosm that is the country. There's change happening. There are people that aren't comfortable with change. So how we change together is going to be a challenge for the leadership. And I would encourage all those that have won statewide office, those in the districts they represent, whether they're in the House of Delegates or the Senate, really think about what got them there. And also think about the continuity. I'm always big on who's your replacement. In business, from a business continuity, we are always, as leaders, executives, looking for our replacements. I would like to see term limits. And why can't Virginia start that? And I'm not suggesting kick anyone out right now. I'm just suggesting that if you've been doing the job 10, 20 years in business, we're encouraged to move on. If you've been doing this job for 10 or 20 years, thank you. But I think it would behoove the institution to consistently refresh with new minds, new ideas. And it'll give the younger folks or newer folks an opportunity to come in. So again, no offense, I'm not trying to suggest anything, but I think term limits. And if Virginia can start that, perhaps the nation will follow. And that's what we're going to talk about when we come back. Stay tuned. Thanks.
Nice going, Spencer! I can't believe we broke Old Man Hennessy's window.
Correction, dude. You broke. I just threw the ball.
This is really bad. What are we gonna do?
We?
Go to the door, ask for the ball back. Are you serious?
It's my ball, Myrtlebeck.
You're so dead.
I'd run away.
Yeah, to Uruguay.
Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry.
Let's go. Yeah, remember me and your well.
Nice one. Some friends you are.
Keep smiling, keep shining.
Hi. Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's a matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about rigged off life. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire!
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi folks, Cesar here, back in Studio C from our hiatus. It is January 2026. We just did a brief recap of the elections and Virginia in 2025. So for 2026, I think the big issue that everyone is certainly focused on, it's been, a national issue, but more importantly here in Virginia, it is the affordability, the healthcare, housing, and energy. And how this incoming administration handles that is going to be key. In terms of the overall picture, just let me read you a couple things here that I think we need to certainly address. Healthcare. It's the number one cost or the number one cause of families going bankrupt. That's true nationally, but it's also very true here in Virginia. So at some point, how does Virginia cope with that? I have no faith that the Affordable Care Act will live in perpetuity. That's my fear. So how does the state handle that? Those are questions that the General Assembly can certainly pick up. But for me, it's such a painful initiative to discuss. I know a lot of families that, couldn't re-up their benefits because the cost was just going to put them in a bind. So until we change this for-profit healthcare delivery system, this is what we're going to get. And I don't know why it's so difficult for some people to just understand. It's like another subsidy. We subsidize gasoline. We subsidize a lot of things. Police, fire, first responders. Those are benefits to us as individuals, but also families in need. So I would hope that there's some march towards the single payer where we remove the for-profits out of it. And I don't claim to be an expert on this, but that is the core of the dilemma. That is the core of the problem. And unless people start talking about that, we're just going to be throwing dollars after dollars and not address the big issue. The big issue are profits, profit-driven motives, because it is a for-profit healthcare delivery system. So good luck to the General Assembly and the Democrats for taking up that one. And to be honest, this next one I flipped on a couple times. The whole redistricting of the electoral maps. Everyone's well aware of what has happened in Texas. The president asked for, I believe it was 5 more seats in the House, Congress. And then, then California put it to the voters with their initiative. So they will be redrawing. Indiana voted no on their initiative to redistrict. And here's why I have had this dilemma. I thought there was hope there that there wouldn't be this redistricting battle mid-census or mid-process. Generally, for the folks that don't know, the census every 10 years then drives what is used for districting, drawing the congressional districts. Why that is so disturbing is it's deliberate now mid-process, where we're actually being told by the Trump administration that they want to ensure they win the midterms. So help me with this. How is that fair? The notion of doing that in prior administrations would have been unheard of. In fact, it's never been done. And I am well aware that for the longest time, redistricting has been done by congressional candidates, but it has never been to this level. And now you've got voter data, applications, and systems that can pick the streets where voters live, collectively how they vote. And it's very easy to just run a sequence against what voters, patterns, blue, red, independent, green, will vote a certain way in primaries, off years, and in general elections. And that's a lot of power. The difference now is it's deliberate. It was meant to shore up the incumbents, which is why I love the idea of term limits, because then it's not a family business, then it's not a career. Public service should not be your sole career. Now, you certainly could devote a career around it in the supporting groups, but to remain in office for a career, I think those days are done. I think they should be done. There's a lot more ability, a lot more information, a lot more opportunity. We should democratize access to elected officials, or access to elected office. So, but I say all that in preference to, I was against Virginia going forward with redistricting, because I held a little hope that what Indiana had done, and by the way, that was a Republican General Assembly majority that blocked it, that said no. But when you have the administration constantly, deliberately pushing for more seats, I think it doesn't leave the Virginia General Assembly any choice. So I say this in great pain. I was against the redistricting of Virginia, but I'm saying go for it. For the House of Delegates and the Senate and the Commonwealth, the incoming governor, you need to shore up votes in Congress, because they will continue, the government, the administration, the Trump administration, will continue to push and more than likely gain congressional seats. It's a fight no one should have. It's a fight no one wanted. But I think Democrats, you guys need to look at what is happening. And to my Republican friends and neighbors, I ask that you help stop this deliberate manipulation mid-process of voting. This redistricting initiative should never have happened. But I think it's a new ballgame. And yes, I hate the players, and I hate the game. Well, let me take that. I hate the game. I don't like the players at the national level. I just think politics is local, and we have to shore up the true representation. And again, I welcome your comments. Email me. I think that's something that we'll certainly be dealing with for a while. So the other thing I want to make sure we address is the voting rights and other constitutional amendments for the upcoming administration. I think in terms of what has happened at the national level, we need to shore up here in the Commonwealth. So voting rights, I mean, Virginia, we were the first, the Loving case, we were out in front protecting the right to vote, protecting the minority, the immigrant votes that are part of our communities, that are voters, that are here, whether they're naturalized or born. There is a direct assault. I've been watching this for the past 15 years that I've been active in Virginia politics. there are some people that have taken it upon themselves to deliberately make it difficult for people to vote. So, to whatever extent, early voting, early absentee, mail-in, make it easier for people to vote. The mail-in ballots took a big assault. But I think people forget most of our overseas military, the folks that serve this country, vote by mail-in ballots. Let's not make it difficult for those that serve this country, this Commonwealth. Make it more difficult for them. And then everyone should have an easier way to vote. It's how we get representation. And, you know, our voting, the registration numbers aren't good as a country. They're not good as a Commonwealth. I encourage the Virginia General Assembly to make it easier to register, certainly verify people are citizens, and encourage them to vote. I think when you're only hovering at about a 50 or 60% turnout, that's not a good thing. The other thing I'll talk about before we go to break is the whole public safety and environment. I touched a little bit about some of the gun safety initiatives that were vetoed. I would encourage this administration coming into the Commonwealth to look at all of those gun safety legislations, ordinances, the ability to allow counties to certainly provide public safety, because that's an issue. There is a growing percentage of isolated individuals, and a lot of them are younger people. Certainly COVID did not help this, and certainly mental health services should be part of public safety, public health, and safety. They are linked. If folks feel isolated, they're more susceptible to being indoctrinated to more harmful things. So I would encourage the General Assembly to pick those up. Those are critical issues that I think will help with the 2026 legislation. Folks, when we come back, I'm going to wrap up with some of the other predictions and insights, and then touch a little bit about what I know you all are talking and waiting about. I hear it at the coffee club all the time, what's going on at the federal level and what to expect for 2026. So please hang tight. We'll be right back. Thanks.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Oh.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. But I don't wanna get on. Very sad all that I could do was remember you. You know I usually stay now, but if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
A big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes.
Right?
I mean, like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you,
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi folks, Cesar here, back in Studio C after our hiatus. It is January 12th, 2026. We've recapped 2025, the election, the impact, the initiatives on the Commonwealth of Virginia, the historical results of that election, and what it'll look like. We covered 2026, some of the Commonwealth initiatives and my ideas for what might be implemented, just brainstorming here. I wanted to talk about, in this final segment, the federal government. And look, there's a lot going on, so I'm going to try to stick to just some high-level facts here. But I want to start off with reminding everyone that despite the renaming of things and the rebranding of things, one thing that I think we need to really remember as a nation, and whatever that means to you, that for our entire history, whether we said it or not, we've always prided ourselves on being a nation of peace. We're not a nation of war. So when we branded ourselves in that light, I think we lost some of our luster. And I would just hope that everyone would remember having power cannot be the end goal here. It's not the outcome that we should strive for. And I got to remind people, because I have this conversation at coffee a lot, and I encourage you to do the same thing. We've got Republicans, Democrats, independents. I, the former chair of the Fairfax County Democratic Party, sit at and talk to people that were on the Capitol on January 6th. But we have a discussion. And I think when we get back to, as a nation, as a Commonwealth, in a General Assembly, having discussions, I think we can solve a lot of problems. The constant, talking over and yelling, and this starts at the top, by the way, so I'm pinning it at the top. Leadership starts at the top. That needs to change. I don't hold hope that it will change, but should it change, I think we'll make a lot more progress going forward. It's not an easy thing, but I'm not holding out hope. So what I'm going to suggest are folks that have influence, that can do things, start to manifest that somehow they can. But let's talk about some of the things that I think the federal government and how that will impact Virginia. Obviously, we are in this January 3rd watch for the renewed shutdown. Again, I think the current bill is set to expire, and I will check this, but January 30th was the omnibus bill. So the current run on negotiations should be happening. I don't think they're happening as much as they should, but we cannot afford another shutdown. Nothing gains from it. There's nothing there's no upside to that. I don't understand why this is being done. And to the leaders in Washington, ask yourselves, why are we doing this? We have families that are just managing to get by. In fact, consumer debt, credit card debt, is the highest percentage on record, according to this. That means people are charging their food. They're charging to eat. So another disruption in the workforce, another disruption to the economy, benefits no one. Those in power, those in the decision-making authority, they're probably doing well. A congressional salary, I believe, is $180K per year plus benefits. That may not be a lot in certain parts of the country, maybe 10%, but the rest of the 90%, That's a lot of money when you start going to the heartland, when you start going to some of these areas that don't have a lot of, economic boom from large businesses. So I would remind those in Congress that they're there to serve the constituents. They're not there to serve an individual or a party for that matter. What's really scary is it doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. So my hope is that for this shutdown watch, somewhere, someone on the leadership side gets it, that we need to do the work of the people. Please don't shut down the government. The other thing I think it's going to hurt or impact Virginia are the changes in terms of the agency Schedule Fs, the payments, categories, and agency reorganizations. I'm not sure how this is going to pan out, and no one really has an understanding because there's not a set view. We know that DOJ is there to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. Great. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. But the results haven't really been seen. I'm not sure anyone understands how much waste there was or where the fraud was. If there's fraud, let me be the first to say, file charges, fraud charges, anywhere, everywhere, absolutely. But I don't get that DOJ did that for us. It was promised and heralded as this big solution to waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. I don't think it delivered on a tenth of what it was meant to. But the impact is going to be felt by Virginians. We still hold a large segment of the federal workforce in Virginia. So as agencies reorganize, as hiring freezes, ease, and then freeze again, if a shutdown happens, these are the things that we're going to have to grapple with. So my hope is our representatives, and we have here in Northern Virginia some great representation. I won't shout out the congressional representation, but full disclosure, I've donated to them. But I think they're the folks that are going to have to really work hard to get bipartisan support to avoid these shutdowns, avoid the agency reorganizations, freezes of the labor hiring in the federal government. That's my hope. I don't know how we get around that. There'll be continued court battles. There'll be continued court battles in terms of how they affect not only the Department of Education, but also this area in general. I think there's going to be a continued effort on dismantling things just to dismantle. I'm a corporate guy. I'm for transforming things. I'm for re-engineering things, business, process, people, paper. I've made a career in digitizing entire organization enterprise systems. It's not about that. For me, there doesn't seem to be an end game here. So my ask is that this administration, going forward, focus on the real issue and not these sort of things that get made up to distract us. Look, I'm all for finding what's happening in the files and other corruption, but the work of the people isn't being done. And that's going to affect Virginia. And I love this Commonwealth, I love the county, I love the town I live in, and I love this country. But we need to figure out a way to address the real issues. And the real issues are still there. They're not going away. So we can invade other countries, we can take over other markets, we can scream about interest rates, but the economy doesn't work that way. People need to feel good and have confidence in the things they're doing, the jobs they're going to, before they spend. So at some point, people, Congress, Senate, not on the Democratic side, but everyone, focus on the work of the people. It's why you're there. And if I could just briefly remind people that we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice and ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare to ensure blessings, liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. That is the preamble, folks, of why you are there. You are there to do the work of the people. We the people, the biggest letters on that document. Please don't forget that. And don't forget it for a number of reasons. It's why you were sent there. It's what people are praying and hoping that you will establish solutions to their problems. Remember, government is there to do the things for the people that we can't do for ourselves. It's not about power. It's not about influence. It's not having your portrait on walls and branded on buildings. People are struggling, people are hurting, people are afraid. Again, I go back to my coffee group in the morning. I hear from all sides. And I encourage folks to join groups where you hear different views, where you hear contrarian views. And then maybe as a nation, we can kind of heal from the division that has been put upon us. It's been put upon us because the internet, folks, has democratized hate. Because anyone, anywhere, with a computer and a connection can spread that fear. And with the percentage of people being isolated or feeling isolated, they're going to gravitate to things that they connect with. So I'll leave you with this. 2026 will be an incredible year. Hang tight. Come back to our show. We've got a huge schedule lined up. We'll see you soon. Thanks for coming.